Previously on Unpacked.
I didn't think it was real because it had never affected me. And then my sister then started getting sick.
Like you can see she's fighting with death.
You know, you never gave us a sense that she's sick to death.
As soon as my sister walks in, she closes her eyes and it was over.
They called us and said, indeed, it's confirmed that the cause of death was related to COVID.
My life just shattered on that day.
Nonhle Mgwaba and Zakithi Khoza have both lost their loved ones to COVID. This is part 2 of their stories. Let's unpack.
What is the last thing your mother said? I'm very sorry.
She said she's going to be okay. Khoza, she lied to me.
I can understand you feeling like your mother lied to you. You know, one of the things that has been shared with me about death is it's actually such a private thing.
Yeah.
You know, people in general don't want to die in front of other people. And also, if you are facing death, fighting death, like what you said about your mom, I can't imagine her wanting to tell you that because it's a reality she probably didn't want to face. So after, your aunt and your mother died basically in the space of a few hours.
6 hours.
What was the next thing that happened?
Again, the same people who came to fetch my aunt came to fetch my mom. And yeah, like, it was just so confusing, actually. Like, I felt like I was going crazy. I was so numb. Like, I didn't know what to say to who. I couldn't even look at my grandmother. Like, I can't imagine the pain that she's going through every day because she had already lost her son when he was 15 to a car accident. And now God took both her children. So it means I'm claiming to just lose, you know. And it's heartbreaking, you know. Also, my mother and my aunt lived for my family. Like, unconditional love is what I learned from them. So it was just so confusing that they're not here. Like, we just witnessed that in the space of, like, what just happened. But my sister and I just had to be grown about it and do the funeral preparations and stuff. We took my grandmother to the doctor and myself for an injection for shock because we weren't okay. Like, I lost my speech. My grandmother was just mute for the longest time. And then, yeah, I'm actually glad with the COVID restrictions of the body not coming home the night before, because I don't know what it would have been seeing 2 coffins in my house, like that. And there are pictures there. It's weird. It was going to be weird. But the funeral happened. And yeah, the bodies came the night before. Not the night before, like 5 minutes before, we went to the burial site, to the house, and my sister and I let go 2 doves, at least. I don't know if we were really releasing them because we believed that we were releasing them. But yeah, it was tough. It was really tough. Like, yeah, it was tough.
I'm going to give you a moment.
Thank
I
you.
know this is very, very heavy.
Yeah. And the weirdest thing, actually, after they passed away, the darkness was gone. The house was lighter. We have a tree. The tree was sleeping, and then it was suddenly blooming. It was just so weird. It's like My sister saw the angel of death in the house on the 13th. Oh, the day before they fell sick, actually. She saw the angel of death enter the house. So she already knew, something's going to happen. I, on the other hand, I realized when I was telling someone, like, can you see how light it is? And they just looked at me like I'm crazy. Then I realized they weren't there when I had to take care of the whole family. So obviously they didn't get to see that darkness.
So from your side, what was, the next thing that happened? You had to bury your sister.
Yeah.
What was the next thing that happened? Because your dad had also been unwell.
Yeah. Well, I think that it was painful because my sister is the only daughter or sister that we had. We had 3 brothers and we had one rose amongst these thorns, And my dad at the time is unwell. He's quarantining.
And he's at home.
He's at home. And we had the funeral at home. So on the day of the funeral, he hears everything, but he cannot be part of everything. So my dad is quarantined and everything is going on. And we literally have to go to his room every now and then through the window to tell him this is now what has happened, We had it live streamed on Facebook as well. So at least he was able to watch the... But I think for me, that was probably for him, that was the heartbreak of it all, because after that moment, he was not the same again, he was not the same. And yeah, we had the funeral and the body came right at the end of the funeral. We went and we buried her, I'd always seen the videos when COVID started of these guys in the white suits spraying the coffin, and I thought, this is so crazy. But I never thought it's something that would actually happen. And, sitting there and watching it. And my sister is the one that's in the coffin. It was extremely painful. But yeah, we had the funeral and we thought that's the end of it. And I want to probably just touch on what Nonhle touched about the darkness. There was a darkness that I cannot explain, It is a darkness that seems like there is no light. In fact, it's an anxiety, that just builds up. And I still have that thing even now. Because you are just in a state of fear to say, what's next? Who's going to die next, And my dad got worse and he landed up in hospital, right?
And this was how long after your sister
It was about
buried?
3 or 4 days after my sister was buried. He woke up at midnight one day and he said, when I take a deep breath, there's a sharp pain on my chest, And we didn't want to take chances. We just said to him, let's go to hospital. So we got to hospital. Took a bit of time to get him admitted. And we came back around about 4 o'clock or so. They said to us, when you see him now, you're not going to be able to see him. So we organized the phone for him so that he can, obviously we can contact him on a daily basis.
And let's just remind the viewers that because the rules are so strict,
the rules are
the
very
reality is that when somebody is going to the hospital with COVID, you are pretty much saying goodbye at the door because you don't know what's going to happen and you won't be allowed to go in to see them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'd call him. Now, when he entered, he obviously was not on oxygen, but now he's on oxygen. And every time we talk to him, the discussion is labored now. And then we take a decision as a family to say, we're not going to call him for long, or we'll skip days because we don't want to tire him in the process, And one day we call him, he's not available. And apparently he had fallen in hospital. He tried to go to the loo and he fell. And we contacted him again and we're able to get hold of him. He relates the story. And we're just panicking, we're just worried. And then there was one day where his oxygen came out and the nurses didn't see. And he called us in a panic, to say, I'm trying to breathe through this thing, but it's not working. And my brother and I just shot straight to the hospital. And obviously we were not happy, we were fighting. And they're saying, you can't go in. And we're saying, this guy just called us. He says he can't breathe and there's no nurse that can assist him, the securities, it became chaos. But eventually we were able to get hold of him and they found that the oxygen, the link to the wall unit had unplugged itself. And at that point, now we do not trust the hospital because we are thinking if this can happen, then, So eventually after 2 days, he started to relate that he wants how things to be done should anything happen. And we're like, Dad, but why are you saying these things? Are you, you know, I can mirror what she's saying in that they don't want to say they just say, I'm going to be okay. You know, he said it so many times, I'm going to be fine, I'll be back. You know, I'm going to live till 100. That was his famous statement, you know. But he starts to tell us, you know, this is how I want to be buried, you know, and he gives us instruction on how to do that, you know. And a day later, at night, it was the 25th on Christmas, at about 10, we got a call from the hospital. And the nurse says, you know, the old man just complicated, you know. And we hear the word complicated for the second time now. And we start to pray as a family for about an hour. I remember praying that day. You know, when you pray, I generally pray with intent because I think prayer will solve the situation. But that prayer was very different. You know, I prayed, but in my heart, I was at peace to say, there's nothing good that's going to come from this. And everybody went to sleep, and I stayed up the entire night because we took my dad to hospital. So I was on the forms, you know, as the next of kin. So I just had my phone next to me, and I just waited for the call. And true to call at 5 a.m., I got the call. Is this Mr. Khoza? Yes, it is. Do you know Mr. Desmond Khoza? Yes, I know. It's my father. I'm sorry to tell you that your father is late. And like Nonhle said, that's when your whole world crumbles apart from there, you know? So it was a weekend when he passed away, so we couldn't obviously do the funeral things and the preparation, so we went on the Monday, and we were able to view the body. It was quite strange because he passed away from COVID, but they allowed us to actually see him, you know? Not through a partition, you know, but yeah, it was painful. It was painful. And we, you know, for the second time in 1 month, we identified a second body. And then we went into the process of organizing for the funeral, you know. It was almost like my sister's funeral was a session for us to prepare for another, you know. So the second funeral went actually smoother than the first one because we knew what to do, what to expect, you know. But I think the most painful thing for us is the grieving part. We haven't grieved, you know. I always put this thing out of my mind. I try not to think about it as much as I possibly can. Sometimes I wish, you know, I could enter into, you know, the stage where I can just cry my heart out, you know. But it seems as though when I try that, I just go into a state of depression. So you know, my coping mechanism is just to keep the thoughts of their passing out of my mind and just try to live.
Because it's so heavy.
It's very heavy.
I think it's because it's also two people.
Yeah.
So I haven't started grieving for my aunt at all. Like I'm actually even not talking to them in a sense. And everybody else around me is dreaming about them, but I'm not. And I'm just like, it's fine. I must just allow myself to be angry until, So I understand what you're saying.
Are you still angry?
I'm extremely angry. Extremely angry. And maybe the strangest part is I don't know who I'm angry at, you know. You want to be angry at God, but we are religious people, so, you know, the Bible seems to tell us that these things are normal, you know, in the life that we live. Death is part of everyday life, so, you know, I don't know who to be angry with, you know. But the other thing about death is it always wants something to blame, you know. So I'm thinking, could hospitals be killing people? You know, and those, I don't know if Nonhle has the same thing. People actually start to tell you that, you know, to say that, why is it that when people go to hospital, they never come out, you know? And you actually start to have that thing to say, what if people are being killed there? And you try to, you know, channel your anger to that. But I think what she said is so key to say, sometimes it is people's time to go, you know? My sister...
Well, look, you just mentioned God, and I wanted to say... our relationships with God are complicated.
They are.
And if you need to direct your anger to God, I think allow yourself to do that. If especially if it's going to give you an opportunity to start to journey through the grief process.
That's true.
Anger is one of the stages. And I think it's fair to also be angry at the person that's gone to say, why did you leave? You know, it might sound unfair or irrational, but I'm just trying to say, I hope you both give yourselves the opportunity and the space to feel your feelings without invalidating them, because you should not be angry at God, or you should not be angry at your father, angry at your sister, angry at your mother, angry at your aunt, which I can sense from what you said about your mom, that she said, I'm going to be fine. And she wasn't fine. And that's the complicated process of grief. Do you think it's harder for you to process, feel, express, cry because of the expectations of men in society? Do you think that plays a role for you?
Yeah, it does. It does. I think you expected to be strong as a man, you know. And I said this to people that also come to bring bereavement, you know. People kind of sit there and they're like, oh, the mother lost a husband and a daughter. And everyone wants to talk to the mother, because in their minds, the mother or my mother would have lost the most. And I say, but you can't look at it that way. You know, there's a daughter who's lost a mother and a grandfather. The grandfather was like a father to her. There are sons that have lost a sister, you know. So our grief is different. So when you come to bereave, just bereave, you know, come and comfort us. You know, there's nobody that is feeling pain more than we are all just going through pain. It may be different degrees of it that can never be understood, but nonetheless, it's all pain. And I don't know, you know, you maybe Nonhle is, for me, I don't know. My anger is displaced, and maybe that's the problem, in that I don't know who to be angry with, you know. And
if you had to be blatantly honest, no judgment, who do you feel angry at? Because you've mentioned God. Are you angry at God?
I think, in a way, probably.
Yeah.
To a certain degree. Maybe I'm also angry at myself as well. Because there's also that thing that maybe if we had just not taken, for instance, my dad to the hospital and just kept him home and tried to treat him at home, maybe he would have survived, you know. So there's also that blame thing happening as well, where you kind of go through everything and you're thinking of things that you could have done differently that may have resulted in, you know, the saving of at least one of these people's lives, you know. So it's grief is just something that you can't explain. It's...
Nonhle, are you also angry at yourself?
Yeah, actually. I'm not angry at myself, but I blame myself for not calling anyone to come help. Like, maybe it could have been different. Maybe it was too much. Like, I'm angry at God mainly because, okay, I was blindsided, I think that's the word.
Blindsided, yeah.
Because why didn't I think of it at the time, you know? Like, why wasn't he there? Like, I felt like he wasn't there, so I haven't said a word to him in this year.
Sure.
I think the most difficult part of the conversation we're having is, and even then, it wouldn't matter how much time has passed, because some people get frozen in time.
It's true.
But for the both of you, it's quite raw, it's quite fresh. And I think it was important for us to share for viewers that there is another dynamic that comes into play when the death is a COVID death. Did you find, and let me start with you, did you find that before they died, they seemed to get better? Because there's that thing that happens sometimes when a person is very unwell, where before they die, they seem fine. So you have this hope that, okay, they're getting better. And then when they do pass on, it hits you like a ton of bricks. Did you find that?
My sister was just one way down. But my dad, that's what happened with him. So I think a week before he was admitted, he actually, because he was now bedridden, but the week before he went to hospital, he started to walk again. you know. And I remember one day he was feeling so well, he actually walked out the house. You know, he was walking like a little newborn baby, but nonetheless, you know, he was, and we sat with him outside and we spoke, and I was so happy. I was like, no, he's out of the red, you know. And then a week later, the opposite started to happen. Yeah. So, yeah, you're right.
Did you find that to be the case?
I think with me, I didn't expect anybody to pass away. But I think at the back of my head, I had it. So I just acted like I can't see what's happening. So I was lying to myself as well for the longest of time. And when I saw my mom driving herself to the doctor on the on the 13th, I was like, okay, yeah, she's gonna be fine. But I was worried at the back of my head. I'm thinking, this whole 10 days, she hasn't been eating right. She probably takes her meds once in a while because if obviously you take meds on an empty stomach, you vomit them. So I was like, okay, maybe she's gonna be fine, you know? And after my aunt had passed away, she was calling everyone. Like, she literally called the whole world to tell them that her sister passed away. And I had to hide her phone now because the more she keeps on saying it, the more her brain is realizing what just happened. And now she started losing her breath. I'm like, hey, can you just give me that phone? And then I'm thinking, I'm taking this phone forever, ne? But I didn't say it out loud. I just thought it in my head. You see, this phone is not going to go back to Mnika's wire because... So I prepared myself. Even the hour before, even when everything was happening, I was prepared. But still, it still felt like my world is crumbling. Like, it's just... I don't know, it's just weird. Like, I can't even explain it. But yeah, I did have a bit of hope. But 80% of me knew, Guti, I'm losing both of them. 20% was just hopeful.
How is your mom and your brothers, how are they doing now?
Well, every day has its challenges. So I moved back home so that obviously my sister moved out. So it was going to be my mom and my sister's daughter. So my wife and my daughter decided we'd move back home just for a year so that we can actually help mom to cope, you know. It's been tough, you know. I think for her being, she's a very strong person, always carrying the family, you know. But I remember one night that always, you know, it clicks on my mind. She thought I'd gone. So I was in the main house. So she thought I'd left and gone out. And I started to hear someone sobbing, you know, sobbing. And then started to count louder. And then she was wailing at some point. So I stood up and I went into a room. And, you know, obviously she was shocked and also a bit embarrassed. And that's where I realized that, you know, she's going through a lot. She didn't just lose her husband and the sister. She also lost her daughter. She also lost her sister in April. Though it was not COVID related, you know. But in 1 year, she lost 3 people that were dear to her. My brothers, they're not okay. I don't want to lie to you. They're not okay. And it goes back to the, you know, patriarchal thing as men, you know, intervention to see people, you know, they haven't been, you know, open to that route as yet, but they're not okay. They're struggling. And I speak to their girlfriend, and one is married, his wife, and they keep telling me the same thing, that ever since December of 2020, they are not okay, you know. So I think it's a step-by-step process, but eventually I think we'll get there. We'll get there.
Nonhle, how's your grandmother doing?
I don't know, actually. I don't think she's okay because it means it's my sister, my niece, and her only at home. So I don't think she's doing okay. And I feel she hadn't healed from losing her son. And now it's just all together. So, but during the time for like, I guess there's a period where we were klalong matrasi and whatnot. She just said she's just happy that her daughters did everything for her. If she complained, ngabe she's ungrateful. She's grateful that she experienced the love that she experienced from her daughters. But yeah, it's hard. So it's just so weird because, funny, me and my sister, we're just now preparing for my grandmother's death. Like, it's just, that's where we are. So we're not okay because these people were like, we lived with my mother. My mother moved back home after she divorced. So we had like a good 2-3 years with her again. And then my aunt would come home every December. So I'm not looking forward to the festive season. I'm not looking forward to January. I just wish I could wake up and it's Feb.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that they probably feel the same way.
How are you doing today?
I don't know. I'm feeling a bit lighter after speaking because sometimes I feel like my grief is an inconvenience to people. So I just keep quiet about it. I hate therapy because speaking about it doesn't change the fact that they did. So I'm a bit lighter.
How are you doing today?
Yeah, I also think I feel a lot lighter. But generally, I don't think I've been okay. I've been suffering with a lot of anxiety. So I've started gymming, it's helping, and trying to live a healthier lifestyle. It's just that constant, fear of something going wrong, and it started then. I think the hardest week was the week that my father was in hospital, I just kept on waiting for the call that he's gone, waiting. So now it looks as though that's how I live my life now, just waiting for something bad to constantly happen. So I think it's a journey. It's a journey. I don't want to lie. I'm not okay. You have those dreams, you see those flashbacks of, when we went to identify them as well. So I don't want to lie. It's not an easy journey. And maybe just to touch back on the anger as well. Sometimes we even get angry at family because the thing is with COVID, you don't get that support from family, And the painful thing is I took my dad's character. He was a very strong figure in the family. He wouldn't care if any of my family members passed from COVID. He'd be there, And I understood him and I expected everybody to react how he would react. And that caused a lot of anger in me, to say my dad would be there for everybody here. But, we did the peeling for the funeral on our own. We identified on our own. We did the funeral basically with very little family around and friends, So I think also that there's a lot of anger around the support element of it. But then as you grow to understand COVID and how it affects people, you actually realize that at times we are a bit unreasonable. It is, it's something new that people don't understand. And we try to put ourselves in their shoes to say, it's probably, the fear of everything that would have caused them not to be there for us. But I'm feeling, just to thank you guys, for the safe space to actually talk about this. Because as she says, you find yourself even on WhatsApp posting them and stuff, and it does become an inconvenience to people. And some people probably sit back and they say, these guys, we've had people pass away, they are over-exaggerating. And you tend to want to keep this thing to yourself after some time, So thank you so much for the safe space. I think there is a lot of changes, how I feel emotionally after the discussion that we had today.
I really, my goal is for this space to be healing.
Yeah.
It definitely is healing for me through everybody's stories. And even if, I can never understand what you went through, I can relate, I can empathize. And my heart definitely goes to the both of you and to your families.
So
I'm very, very sorry for your loss. Sincere condolences. I hope you're able to hold space for yourselves to grieve the way that you need to outside of what anybody might say. I hope you give yourselves the time. I hope you allow yourselves to feel what you need to feel without judging yourselves. I hope you're able to do that. But thank you for coming to share the reality of losing loved ones to COVID. It has a different dynamic to just, death by natural causes or anything else. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Maybe if I can just add, my mom turned 70 on Tuesday. So today we're actually having a 70th birthday for her. I think it was important for us December is such a dark period for us, after losing 2 people last year, just to bring something light into the family, So I'm going to encourage you to watch the show and this episode as well. I just wanted to wish her a happy birthday, you know, and ask her to be strong and that we truly love her for being, you know, the pillar of support that she's been to the family. So, yeah, thank you so much.
You both come from strong women. You've got your grandmother, you've got your mother.
Yeah.
And love and light and strength to the both of them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hashtag Unpacked with Relebogile. Loss in itself is such a heavy burden to carry. Now add the element of COVID and it is complicated. So many of you have been living around COVID and with COVID, but somehow it finds a way to blindside us. So I send love and light to those of you that have lost loved ones to COVID. This episode, we think of all of you. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Next time on Unpacked.
I never thought people would be so cruel. I wanted to tell my parents so bad, be like, something is going on.
With young people, there's a certain level of ignorance.
I just don't understand why you should be mean to the next person because they are different.
Was there a point before you being in the hospital that you had actively tried to take your own life?
Many times, many times.
Thank you so much for watching Unpacked with Relebogile Mabotja. Make sure you subscribe to my channel where you can get to watch more episodes. But more importantly, you can be part of our online community. Comment down below, share with us who you'd like to see on the show, what story you'd like us to discuss. We love engaging with you. Keep it coming and don't forget to subscribe.